Ayn Rand, Shrugged, quotes and thoughts. Now I'm quoting from page 399. I'm not even after a diamond tiara from you, unless, of course, it's a tiara of a non-material order, such as your appreciation. So this is the wife of Henry Reardon. Her husband doesn't understand her. She married him, and he thought that she chose him because of his ability to earn money, to produce, to create. So, in other words, he thought that he was chosen by her because he is a productive man, a productive person. But turns out that it's not really the case, and he doesn't understand what she's after. So in some passages she states what she's after as clearly as she can, but he still has a hard time understanding. And this is about people. There is this type of people who really want the other person everything of the other person. They don't want to give any freedom, any space to the other person. And relationships for some people are about total control. See, sometimes you see very jealous men who want to control the behavior of their girlfriends or wives, right? And vice versa. Women can be very jealous too. However, there's another level when it's not only about the external behavior, what the person does, to whom the person talks, but it's also about the thinking and the creative force of the other person. So Lillian, she wants everything. She wants to live in the mind of her husband, rent-free, and she wants to be appreciated. She wants to be in control of everything, without leaving any freedom to her husband. So people who are after control are often like this. They want, like dictators, religious leaders, they want to control. And if you have read, was it 1986 by, was it Aldous Huxley or someone else? I'm forgetting. Probably some other author. That famous novel about the dystopia, when you have dictatorships all over the planet. So, high reverse bound to outdoors. Yeah, you see a gay flag, it's correct, yes. Several things, one of them is the LGBT flag. So, yeah, they are in the novel when they discover a dissident. Well, they hunt after the dissidents in the novel, and they don't just break the person psychologically. It's not enough for them. They break the person up to a point where reality and fantasy are not cannot be distinguished, and the person is with the person's mind, consciousness, soul, if we are to use that term, the person is handing themselves to their executioner. And this strategy is loved by dictatorships like the Russian KGB. When you read Ayn Rand's literature, you really see that type of behavior. And I encourage people on YouTube to give me thumbs up, and I encourage people on TikTok to tap on the screen. Okay. And Ayn Rand, in her literature, she describes this type of the person slowly with passages like this, what they are after, how they are operating, etc. So it's pretty interesting. Next, on the same page. In the code of his friends, to reveal any part of one's self was to give a weapon to an enemy, but he signed her confession and matched it when he said, "I wish I were as smart about my sister." So this is a conversation between two manipulators, Lillian, the wife of Henry Reardon, and James Taggart, the president of the Taggart Transcontinental. They both are after control, and Lillian wants to totally control her husband, Henry Reardon, the successful and honest, decent businessman. And James Taggart wants to control his sister, Dagny Taggart, who is the vice president and the locomotive, like the driving force behind the Taggart Transcontinental, a rail company. Hi, Lourdes. Yes. Guys, when you see some negative comment, you can just report it. See, Maverick left a negative comment. You can just click on his comment, click on his account, and report him. Okay. And similarly to Connie. Yeah. All right. And thumbs ups are welcome. Yes, thank you to that one person who gave me thumbs up. Others, I encourage you to follow. And on TikTok, you can tap on the screen. Yeah, so those people want to break the wheel. Not only that, they want the other person to behave as they please. It's really about a form of parasitism. Like in the wildlife, you have some parasites that enter into the system of the organism and live there. However, you have other types of parasites that penetrate not only into the organism of the victim, they enter the brain of the victim and start controlling the behavior of the victim. If you just Google zombie snails, for instance, you will see that. It's crazy what some parasites do to their victims. They just destroy the victim. And so in the human realm, similarly, we have those philosophical, religious, political parasites that are after destroying the software, the mind, the spirit, the creative force of their victims. They want, like in South Korea, in Russia, in many Muslim and conservative Christian states across Asia, Africa, all across the planet, we have this type of parasites that want to dictate how to behave, what to think, how to make thoughts. In Russia, for instance, now you will be arrested even if you Google something, even if you just type something, not that you were preparing to do something against the state, but you wanted to learn more about some subjects, you will be arrested for that. So this is, that form of parasitism when the state wants total control. Not only they are after your body, but they are also after your brain. They want to penetrate your brain through fear. And we see that in the civilized Western societies, we also have wannabe dictators like that who admire their dictator colleagues, and they want to build a system like that where people are controlled in a terrifying totalitarian way. Page 404, and this is Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. Okay. We will release our spiritual aims from dependence on the owners of material means. We will liberate our culture from the stranglehold of the profit chasers. We will build a society dedicated to higher ideals, and we will replace the aristocracy of money by, and then it's like someone else interrupting, and someone else says by the aristocracy of pool. So this is James Taggart speaking, the same James Taggart I mentioned earlier. He is rich, but he condemns people who are, uh, oh, people from Iran. That's strange. I don't speak Arabic. Okay. Yes, people who are uh, so destructive, so collectivist, and so altruist that they are ready to destroy even themselves. Oh, thank you to someone who gave me a little emoji on YouTube. That was beautiful. Those people, um, there is an interesting term in Russian, lumpen. It's someone who really has no identity at all. And lumpens are ready to take um, on any identity that will allow them to survive in the given regime. Like some Russian propagandists, for instance, there is one famous Solovyov. When you watch his materials, like from his material from 20 years ago, his interviews, the shows that he had, he spoke like a civilized human being. He was against war, he was against dictatorship, but now he serves Putin. So sometimes they have some material against people like that for blackmail, and sometimes it's not blackmail. Sometimes it's just the person choosing to do that for profit. And there is some probability that after Putin, if hopefully there is another era of democratization in Russia and it's more successful, the same Solovyov will try to adjust to the new reality, and he will start speaking of freedom, equality, blah blah blah. Although right now he's speaking of destroying the enemies, destroying Ukraine, etc., etc. So parasites are like that. They are shapeless in some way. They are after the destruction of someone or something, and they are after living and feeding off the energy of their victims. So James Taggart is one of those. They seek power, but not just the power of the material realm. They want more than that. Again, some parasites are happy to live in one organ of their victim and just survive, yeah, as long as the victim lives, like in some fish and in some other organisms, it's like that. Whilst others, they just go after the total destruction of control over their victims. And in the human civilization, we have that as well. Page 406. Oh, I don't object at all. I appreciate it. A great many investors, the old-fashioned sort, dropped me after the San Sebastian mines. It scared them away, but the modern ones had more faith in me and acted as they always do, on faith. I can't tell you how thoroughly I appreciate it. This is Francisco d'Anconia, another important character in the novels. He is viewed as a playboy, although he is a very, very smart guy, and he's participating in the strike. Ayn Rand was thinking of naming Atlas Shrugged, her novel, The Strike. For a while, that was the working title of her book. Thank you to the other person on YouTube who gave me thumbs up. I appreciate that, and I encourage others to do the same, okay? Thumbs up, please. And tapping on the screen on TikTok. All right. Now, uh, Francisco is uh, demonstratively living his life the way his executioners, the parasites, want him to. But without allowing the parasites to control his body and mind. So, what I mean, um, parasites come and destroy the vital energy of their victims. If it's about the government, a parasitical government regime enters the system and starts depleting the system, like Putin destroying the population of Russia, the wealth of Russia, um, and slowly it just goes. Everything goes into decay. Yeah, so it's an act of destruction. Parasites are after destruction. They enter a healthy system and they break the system. They remain in the system as long as the victim allows them to. Sometimes the victim cannot heal itself, himself, herself, and the victim just dies with the parasites. And sometimes the victim is able to heal themselves and restore their health. So the act of the parasite is the act of the destructor. They destroy the wealth, they destroy the immunity, they destroy the systems, the democratic political system, and it's an act of total destruction. However, hi, thank you, Samantha. Hi. However, and thank you for the thumbs up. Oh, yeah, thank you for all those emojis. If it's you, Samantha, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Yeah. However, now Francisco is demonstrating in the novel, he is demonstrating. Oh, thank you, Samantha. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the thumbs up and for the emojis. He demonstrates how destructive the parasites are, but he doesn't allow the parasites to take over his body and wealth, because Francisco d'Anconia in the novel, he's super rich, okay? And he doesn't allow his wealth to be destroyed by the parasites, which the parasites are after, yeah? They take control of the state or of a group of people, and they take the property of the people, the minds of the people, the bodies, etc. Francisco is destroying his own wealth on his own in the novel, and the parasites are, of course, unhappy about that, yes, because they would rather destroy the property of Francisco themselves, slowly, yes, feeding on that wealth and his creative power for as long as it would be possible. My real name is Noah. Hi, Noah. This is my mom's account. Okay, no problem. Nice to see you, Noah. Yeah, so this is that passage where Francisco destroyed a large portion of his wealth, and the parasites are unhappy. And Francisco is just demonstrating, well, guys, I did everything you wanted me to. You are altruists, you praise altruism. Oh, someone on TikTok says Jesus loves you. Well, okay, in the context of objectivism, I might speak of religion and emotions, but total emotionality, when emotions are above everything, that's also the language of the manipulator, of people who are after control. At first, of course, it's about love, brotherhood, control, love, brotherhood, sharing. But then, when you give your body, mind, and your will to that group, of course, then you discover more to it, just like with churches, with religious organizations, with some political parties, etc. Okay, now I subbed. Oh, thank you, Noah. That's cool. Awesome. Thanks for subscribing. Now, page 407. I think it's still Francisco speaking. You should have expected me, James. This is the great formal nose counting event where the victims come in order to show how safe it is to destroy them, and the destroyers form pacts of eternal friendship, which lasts for 3 months. I don't know exactly which group I belong to, but I had to come and be counted, didn't I? So, destroyers, yeah, and victims. Those terms are also used by Ayn Rand. Uh, Thank you for liking the live, silly little Owen on TikTok. I appreciate that. I just double tapped the screen with my tip. Okay, that's awesome, silly little Owen. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Yes, the destroyers and their victims. Yeah, this is the continuation of the theme that I already mentioned. Now, I think it makes sense to read from this page more. What in hell do you think you're saying? Taggart cried furiously, seeing the tension on the faces around them. Be careful, James. If you try to pretend that you don't understand me, I'm going to make it much clearer. If you think it's proper to utter such, I think it's funny. There was a time when men were afraid that somebody would reveal some secret of theirs that was unknown to their fellows. Nowadays, they're afraid that somebody will name what everybody knows. Have you practical people ever thought that that's all it would take to blast your whole big complex structure with all your laws and guns, just somebody naming the exact nature of what you're doing? If you think it's proper to come to a celebration such as a wedding in order to insult the host, why, James, I came here to thank you. To thank me? Of course. You've done me a great favor. You and your boys in Washington and the boys in Santiago. I only wonder why none of you took the trouble to inform me about it. Those directives that somebody issued here a few months ago are choking off the entire copper industry of this country. And the result is that this country suddenly has to import much larger amounts of copper. And where in the world is there any copper left unless it's Tankonia copper? So you see that I have good reasons to be grateful. Yeah, the novel Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand is so rich, and there are so many layers. It's about romance, it's about psychology, it's about economy. Yes, how economy works. So here, James Taggart is a powerful destroyer or parasite who is after seizing the wealth of his victims. So Francisco d'Anconia is one of those honest creator business people who creates wealth and value. James inherited his wealth, and he is not interested in earning money in an honest way through productive effort. He is after seizing the wealth of other creators. And he is also powerful. He has friends in Washington. So he is choking the economy through different directives, laws, regulations, moratoriums, etc. So in this passage, they already had the directives that were making the extraction of copper much more expensive and much harder in the United States. So the industry people started importing copper from abroad. And this is how economy works in real life. The more regulations you have, the worse it is for the producers in the country. And this is why we have those things like offshore businesses, like hiring people abroad, because when collectivists, right wing collectivists or left wing collectivists, start choking the industry in the country, then the creators seek alternatives. Sometimes they um, move their entire businesses abroad because doing business in the given country becomes too expensive. And unfortunately, it's happening both. It's done by socialists, Marxists, communists, and it is done by Christian nationalists, by right wing conservative politicians with their tariffs, with other collectivist objectives. So it makes no difference what sort of collectivism it is. Collectivism and bureaucracy hurt businesses. And of course, um, they uh, present it as if it is done for the sake of good things, like for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the people, of the working class, of the faith, etc., for children, for security, safety, for the future, blah blah blah. So they are, you know, uttering collectivist um, goals. It's when, when murderers and criminals say, I committed this crime for the sake of a collective. And it's weird, like it's weird that killing a man is a crime, but when you say that I did it for the sake of the country or whatever, and you really harmed an innocent human being, it doesn't make your crime justifiable, right? Thank you, Mr. Warlock. I think you sent me a gift on TikTok, although I didn't see that, but thank you so much. Now, Mr. Warlock says they point at each other and call each other the same names while being culpable. Yeah, if you speak of two collectivist groups, yes, they are. Gnostic lore. Big bags following. Always bold big bags following. Okay, I don't get what you're saying, Big Trev, in that comment. Yes, so Francisco d'Anconia is very powerful in the novel, and he willingly destroys his wealth without allowing the parasites, the collectivists, to take control of his wealth. And collectivists can, be about nationalism, religion, working class. They also can be about their own survival. The book is very interesting because in the book, the collectivists are not described in, let's say, religious terms, or even politically, you couldn't call them right wing. In the book, they are more left wing, although it's still about collectivists. So in the philosophy of Ayn Rand, it's collectivism versus individualism. Okay, some right-wing folks like Ayn Rand, but they just cherry pick, very few passages from her philosophy, from her works, and that's kind of dishonest. Like if you're Christian nationalist, you cannot really be an objectivist. You cannot really be a big, like, you can admire Ayn Rand, yeah, but it would mean you don't understand her philosophy profoundly, because religiosity has no place in the philosophy of objectivism, for instance. And beliefs, whether those beliefs are religious or philosophical or cultural, any form of blind faith is inferior to reason. It's low quality, it's bad in objectivism. All right. So yes, let's continue. And I remind you guys, you can give me thumbs up on YouTube and you can tap on the screen on TikTok. Okay, we're reading Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, a bestseller that was around for thing. Hateful. I iPhones are more disruptive than Androids. Yeah. Okay. Now, from the same page, page 407. The boys in Santiago wanted to corner this market. I don't know what they offered to the boys in Washington or who traded what and to whom, but I know that you came in on it somewhere because you do hold a sizable chunk of Danconia copper stock. And it surely didn't displease you that morning, 4 months ago, the day after their directives were issued, to see the kind of soaring leap that Danconia Copper performed on the stock exchange. Why, it practically leaped off the ticker tape and into your face. Um, so, James Taggart, uh, again, this is about how parasites operate. James Taggart bought a lot of um, Patagonia copper property and bonds or stocks, and he was also strangling the Danconia copper. So he wanted the wealth, but he wanted also the production power of that company and of the founder, Francisco Danconia. And they were investing in the Danconia copper in Mexico in the novel. But in the novel, Mexico was already socialist. It was People's Republic of Mexico. Ayn Rand wrote this novel in, I think, 60s, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and back in the day, there was a lot of socialism and communism across the globe. So at some point, it felt like the United States was one of those very, very rare um, capitalist countries on the globe. And the Vietnam War, partly it was an effort to to stop the communization of another country, of Vietnam. Um, so the novel makes sense because there was a big threat and the planet was like ill and with that mm, leftist collectivist ideas. Yes, it was a lot of communism and socialism across the planet, not just Eurasia, but also in the Americas. And in the United States as well, there were a lot of collectivists, left wing collectivists. So historically, it was kind of probable. And now, what happened in Mexico, they invested in the novel. They invested a lot of money building a railroad, and they invested in the copper industry in Mexico, thinking that it was good for their pockets, and I mean the destroyers, the parasites. And then the government nationalized all the copper industry, and the parasites were deprived of their investment and all of their stuff. Francisco d'Anconia knew that nationalization was around the corner. So what he did, he was pretending to uh, creating, he pretended that he was creating a big copper mines. He pretended for months that the mines were a success, the mines were very lucrative, they would bring a lot of profit. And then when they nationalized the copper mines, they discovered that the mines were practically empty and everything was unpromising. So the destroyers were also unhappy with that, like the parasites who take the business ownership away from the creators. they were fooled by Francisco d'Anconia. So now they are unhappy with d'Anconia. Uh, the parasites in the People's Republic of Mexico are condemning d'Anconia because he was pretending that the mines were profitable, and the parasites in the United States are happy because they also lost a lot because of their investment in the mines. So this is what's happening in the novel right now. Yes. And a lot of legal stuff. The parasites like to own their victims. I think maybe something similar happened to TikTok in the United States. I think it was started by the Democrats, if I'm not mistaken. So again, by um, what's the word? Left-leaning collectivists, but it was also supported by some right-leaning collectivists under the name of patriotism. Again, the ownership of TikTok was argued and taken away from the original owners, right? So it's always the same. Yes, collectivists of all ilks, they want to uh, nationalize, they want to penetrate into the body of the victim and take total control. All the parasites dream of that, taking hold of something that they didn't create, and not only feeding on the victim, but getting into the nervous system, getting into the brains of their victim, and controlling everything. That's the dream of all the destroyers and all the parasites. And when their victim dies, they just find another victim. And Ayn Rand describes that beautifully in her novels. Um, yeah, you can Google or search on YouTube like zombie ants, zombie snails, to understand how those parasites work and what crazy things they can do to their victims. Hello, what's the subject tonight? Hi, Bram. Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I'm reading quotes, and I have a lot of quotes again from the book for the future lives, okay? Subscribe to the channel, guys. Thank you to those 3 people who gave me thumbs up on YouTube. I encourage others to do the same whenever you watch this video. And TikTok, folks, I got only 1 tap on the screen. TikTok is super passive. I think I got a gift on TikTok from someone, so thank you for the little gift. Yeah, I go live several days a week. Probably not every day, but I try to. And I'm creating a community. So if you look at the name of the channel, it's New Intellectuals Community. So I'm after creating a community of new intellectuals. And the concept of the new intellectual, again, it's from Ayn Rand's philosophy. It's about reason, it's about individualism, free market capitalism. So as we go, we will discover more, but this is what I'm interested in. I want to create an offline community here in Los Angeles, and I also want to create online communities and hopefully in the future have community centers in places like in cities and countries where freedom is still existent, where people can express themselves without fearing persecution by their collectivist governments or societies, religious, political, or otherwise. That's it. So thanks a lot again and see you soon. Hopefully, maybe even tomorrow. Okay, have a